Alina had always been different from the other girls in her village. From childhood, she grew faster, stood taller, and carried a strong physical presence that no one could ignore. When she was 10, she looked like she was 15. When she was 15, she looked like she was 20. People never asked her real age. They simply assumed she was older and treated her that way. At first, she used to laugh when someone called her a giant, because she believed they meant it playfully. But over the years, the same words began to enter her heart like tiny stones. Not enough to break her, but enough to make her feel heavy. By the time she reached adulthood, Alina had learned to hide her discomfort behind a polite smile. She became used to bending slightly while talking to shorter people, walking softly so her footsteps wouldn't sound loud, and choosing loose clothes so she wouldn't look too big. She never complained to anyone. Not to her mother, not to her sisters, not even to herself. She simply accepted it as her reality, but deep inside, she always carried a quiet wish to find someone who would look at her without seeing her size first. Her family adored her. They never saw her as too big or too tall. For them, she was the kind, helpful, responsible daughter who brought calmness into the home. But the outside world was not so gentle. Children on the street stared at her. Aunties whispered about how difficult it would be to find a groom for her. Some young men avoided standing near her, afraid of being judged for their height. Alina saw all of it. She heard all of it, but she never said anything. One day, a marriage proposal came from a neighboring town. The groom's name was Rafik. He was known to be soft-spoken, hard-working, and mature beyond his age. His family had visited Alina's house once before for a relative's wedding, and they remembered her as the tall girl who carried trays and greeted guests with such confidence. Rafik's mother had liked her immediately. "A strong girl brings strength into a home," she had said. When Alina first heard about the proposal, she froze for a moment. She had heard of many proposals reaching her home, only to disappear once the other family saw her height. She didn't want to feel hopeful, only to be disappointed later. But her mother told her that this family already knew what she looked like, and still wanted to meet again. That gave Alina a small spark of courage. Not too bright, just enough to keep her heart warm. The meeting went well. Rafik was shorter than her, but he did not seem uncomfortable. He spoke with calm words, asked about her interests, and listened carefully to her answers. There was no sign of judgment in his eyes. For the first time in a long time, Alina felt seen not for her appearance, but for her personality. His family was also polite, respectful, and open-hearted. Within a few days, the engagement was finalized. As the wedding day approached, everyone in the house became busy. Cousins visited, aunties took charge of decorations, and her sisters helped her prepare her clothes. Alina felt excited but nervous. She wanted everything to go smoothly. She wanted to look beautiful, even though she often doubted her appearance. She wanted to be a bride who fit into her new life, without feeling like she was too much. On the morning of her wedding, her room was filled with cheerful noise. Her sisters were teasing her, applying mehndi, fixing her dupatta, adjusting her jewelry. Alina sat patiently, trying to enjoy the moment. But inside, a quiet fear kept rising. What if people stared at her? What if someone whispered again? What if she looked awkward standing beside her new husband? She tried to brush these thoughts away, but they kept returning. A few minutes before she was supposed to walk out for the ceremony, her aunt handed her a delicate pair of bridal bangles, the family tradition that every bride wore on her wedding day. They were small, made of gold with red stones, and beautifully designed. Alina smiled, touched by the symbolism. But when her sister tried to slide the first bangle onto her wrist, it stopped halfway. "Maybe try the other wrist," her sister said quickly, not wanting Alina to feel embarrassed. They tried. It didn't fit. They tried twisting gently. Still no. Another sister applied a bit of oil to her wrist, hoping it would help. But even with that, the bangle refused to slide down. A silence fell over the room. Alina looked at her large hands and strong wrists, hands she had learned to hide, wrists she had tried to cover with sleeves. She felt a painful wave of shame hit her chest. "It's okay," her mother said softly. "We have bigger bangles. We can use those. But these are the bridal ones," her aunt whispered, worried. Alina's eyes grew warm with unshed tears. She had told herself she would not cry today. Not even if something went wrong. But now her emotions became too heavy. She pulled her hands back gently and shook her head. "They're too small," she whispered, her voice breaking. Her sisters exchanged worried glances. They had seen her hide her feelings for years, but they had never seen her break like this. She stood up suddenly, took a step away from them, and said in a trembling voice, "Just let me go. Let me breathe, please." Her mother reached out to touch her arm. But Alina moved back. She wasn't angry. She was overwhelmed. She felt as if the whole world was watching her struggle with something as simple as a bangle. She felt like a giant trying to squeeze herself into a small space, like someone trying to force herself into a life that didn't have room for her. Her eyes filled completely this time. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, a tall bride in a beautiful dress, but with fear all over her face. She whispered again, more to herself than anyone else, "Maybe I'm not made for things like this." Just then, the door opened quietly. Everyone expected it to be another aunt or cousin, but it was not. It was Rafik. He stepped into the room slowly, respectfully, making sure he did not alarm anyone. He looked at Alina, then at the bangles, then at her worried family. Something in his calm expression made the room relax a little. "Is everything all right?" he asked gently. Alina looked down, embarrassed that he had walked in during such an emotional moment. She didn't know what to say. She didn't want him to think she was weak or dramatic, but she also couldn't hide her worry anymore. Before she could speak, her mother explained softly, "The bridal bangles are a bit small. She's feeling stressed." Rafik nodded, understanding instantly. He didn't laugh. He didn't show frustration. He didn't make a single comment about her size or the situation. Instead, he walked toward her with steady steps. When he reached her side, he spoke in a quiet voice that only she could hear. "Let's try again." Slowly. "Sometimes things don't fit at first." Alina looked up, surprised by his patience. She expected him to be bothered by the delay or embarrassed by the situation. But he wasn't. His eyes held nothing but softness. He took the bangle gently, dipped it in warm water, applied a little soap, something he had learned from his mother, and held out his hand toward Alina. "Give me your hand," he said, in a calm, steady tone. Alina hesitated. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was beating fast. She worried that the bangle would get stuck again, and she would feel even worse. But his eyes encouraged her. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The room fell silent. With steady hands, Rafik guided the bangle over her fingers, moving slowly, carefully, without rushing or forcing. The soap helped. The warm water helped, but more than that, his patience helped. After a few moments, the bangle slid onto her wrist. Everyone exhaled with relief. Alina stared at the bangle, then at Rafik, unable to speak. Her heart was still shaking, but now for a different reason, not fear, but gratitude. He hadn't mocked her or judged her. Instead, he stood beside her, quietly helping her through something that felt huge to her, even if it looked small to others. For the first time that day, Alina smiled. Not a polite smile, a real one. And that small moment, with a single bangle sliding into place, became the beginning of a change she never expected. When the bangle finally slipped onto Alina's wrist, the room filled with a soft wave of relief. Her sisters smiled, her mother whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, and even her usually strict aunt relaxed her shoulders. But the person who looked the calmest of all was Rafik. He wiped the soap from his fingers with a handkerchief and gave Alina a small, encouraging smile, as if helping her through this moment was the most normal thing in the world. For a few seconds, Alina simply stared at him, not knowing what to say. Her heart felt strange, lighter than before, yet beating faster. She had imagined many scenarios for her wedding day. Being nervous, being shy, being overwhelmed, but she never imagined Rafik entering her room at the perfect moment, and calming her panic with such gentle understanding. She whispered, almost in disbelief, "Thank you." Rafik nodded softly. "There's nothing to thank me for." His voice was calm, smooth, and steady, just like before. "A bangle is a small thing. We'll handle every small thing step by step, all right?" His words felt simple, but they held a deeper meaning that touched her heart. Her sisters exchanged looks behind her, silently smiling. They could see it clearly. Rafik wasn't just being polite, he truly meant what he said. Alina wiped the corner of her eye before any tear could fall. She didn't want to look emotional in front of him, but he noticed anyway. He lowered his voice a little. "You're not alone in this. We're a team now." A warm silence filled the room. No one dared interrupt. For one brief moment, Alina felt like the rest of the world disappeared, leaving only her and Rafik standing in the soft glow of the wedding lights. But weddings never pause for long. Soon, a cousin opened the door and said, "The guests are waiting. The ceremony is about to start." Rafik stepped back respectfully, giving Alina space. Before leaving the room, he said, "Take your time. And if something feels uncomfortable, tell me. We can fix it together." Alina watched him walk out, feeling something shift inside her. Maybe it was her confidence. Maybe it was her fear being replaced with trust. Or maybe it was the beginning of something she had secretly wished for: a partner who would not judge her, but stand beside her. Her sisters gathered around her again, adjusting her dress, touching up her makeup, and fixing her dupatta. This time, Alina wasn't trembling. She felt steadier, as if someone had lifted a heavy weight from her chest. When she finally walked toward the wedding stage, the hall fell quiet for a moment. People admired her outfit, her jewelry, her elegant walk. Many whispered about her height, yes, but not all whispers were unkind. Some admired her regal presence, while others simply watched in awe. Alina kept her eyes down at first, afraid that someone's look might break her fragile courage. But when she reached the stage and saw Rafik standing there with the gentle, patient smile she had seen earlier, she felt her steps become lighter. He extended his hand to help her step onto the platform. For a moment, she hesitated, her old insecurity flickering for just 1 second. But then she placed her hand in his. His grip was steady, warm, reassuring. "You're doing great," he whispered as she stood beside him. She didn't respond out loud, but her heart whispered back, "Maybe I really am." The ceremony began with prayers, blessings, and smiles. People came forward one by one to congratulate the couple. Rafik's family welcomed Alina with kindness. His mother hugged her and whispered, "You look beautiful, my child." His sisters adjusted her veil lovingly. No one stared at her in a judgmental way. They treated her with warmth, as if she had always belonged there. Alina felt her fear fade slowly, like fog melting under sunlight. During the ring exchange, her hand trembled a little. Rafik noticed immediately. Without making it obvious, he leaned slightly closer and whispered, "No rush. We have enough time." She let out a slow breath and relaxed. The ring slid perfectly onto her finger. As the ceremony continued, Alina's mind drifted back to the moment in her room, the bangles, her panic, her words, "Just let me go." And then Rafik's gentle reply, "Let's try again." He didn't just help her fit a bangle. He helped her fit into the moment. After the main rituals ended, there was a short break before the final part of the ceremony. Alina sat in a quiet corner behind the stage, drinking a little water to calm herself. Her heart was calmer now, but her mind kept replaying everything that happened. Just then, she felt someone sit beside her. It was Rafik, not with loud footsteps or awkward movements, but with the same quiet presence that made her feel safe. "Are you tired?" he asked softly. "A little," she admitted. He nodded. "Weddings do that to everyone." Then he smiled lightly and added, "Even to me." Alina was surprised. She had always imagined men staying calm and relaxed during weddings. She looked at him with curious eyes. "You seem very calm." He chuckled gently. "I pretend well." She smiled, the tension slowly leaving her shoulders. After a pause, Rafik looked at her wrist and said, "The bangle looks perfect on you now." Alina lowered her eyes. "I thought it would break, or my hand would not fit inside it. I panicked too much." "You didn't panic," he said. "You were worried. That's normal." "No, I was really scared," she admitted quietly. "I thought maybe nothing in this wedding would fit me. Not the bangle, not the dress, not the expectations, not even your family." Rafik listened closely, without interrupting. She continued, "I've always been told I'm too big, too tall, too strong. I thought people would laugh today." He leaned forward slightly, in a gentle, reassuring way. "Alina, it doesn't matter what people say. What matters is how we treat each other. You don't have to shrink yourself for anyone." His words touched her deeper than he probably realized. Alina whispered, "I felt embarrassed in front of you." "Why?" he asked softly. "Because I thought you would think I'm difficult." Rafik shook his head. "Everyone has something. I'm not perfect either. I'm quiet. Too quiet sometimes. People say I'm slow to speak or slow to react. But that's just who I am." Alina looked at him, surprised. She never thought someone like Rafik could have his own insecurities. He continued, "I didn't choose you for your height or looks. I chose you because you are sincere, caring, and honest. That matters more than anything else." Her eyes softened. She felt something warm rising inside her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. Respect, security, hope. Before she could reply, a family member called out, "The final ceremony is starting. Please come." Rafik stood up and extended his hand to help her rise. "Ready?" Alina stood slowly but firmly. "I think I am." As they walked together toward the hall, Alina noticed something. People were watching them. Yes, they were still whispering. But the whispers no longer felt sharp. Maybe nothing outside had changed, but something inside her definitely had. She walked beside Rafik. Not behind him. Not hidden in the crowd. But right next to him. For the first time in her life, she didn't try to make herself look smaller, or lighter, or quieter. She walked tall, with her head held up gently, not with pride, but with acceptance. Rafik glanced at her and smiled. "You look more confident." She smiled back. "Maybe I finally believe that I don't have to fit everything. Maybe some things can adjust for me too." Rafik nodded. "Exactly." As they stepped onto the stage again, the lights brightened, the guests clapped, and the music played softly. But Alina wasn't thinking about the crowd anymore. Her mind repeated only one memory from earlier, the moment she said, "It won't fit. Just let me go." And the moment he answered, "Try again." And she realized something beautiful. Sometimes, all a person needs is someone who doesn't give up at the first difficulty. Someone who says, gently, but firmly, "Try again," and stays beside you until it works. After the final wedding ceremony ended, the hall slowly grew quieter. Guests began to leave. Children became sleepy. And the loud laughter of relatives softened into gentle conversations. The bright lights dimmed, leaving a warm glow in the room. Alina finally felt the pressure in her chest start to ease. For the first time since morning, she took a slow breath. Without feeling anxious, she sat near one of the decorated pillars, adjusting her heavy dupatta, when she noticed Rafik standing a few steps away. He was talking to an elderly uncle but kept glancing toward her, as if making sure she was okay. Every time their eyes met, he gave a small nod, soft, calm, and reassuring. It was strange, she thought. She had known him only for a short time, yet his presence already felt steady, like a quiet anchor. Someone she didn't have to hide from. After a few minutes, Rafik walked toward her. "Are you feeling all right?" he asked, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Yes," she replied softly. "Just tired." "Tired is normal," he said with a gentle smile. "It's been a long day." "Tired is normal." Alina nodded. She did not know how to express the mix of relief and nervousness swirling inside her. She felt safe. but at the same time, a little scared. Marriage was a big step. She wasn't sure if she was ready to open her heart, or if she even knew how. Rafiq looked at the empty seat beside her. "May I sit?" She moved her dress a little, making space. "Of course." He sat down, keeping a comfortable distance, not too close, not too far. He rested his hands softly on his lap and looked forward instead of staring at her, giving her space to speak if she wanted. For a moment, both remained silent. Not an uncomfortable silence, more like a gentle pause. Finally, Alina spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost unsure. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," he said immediately. She took a deep breath. "Earlier, when the bangles didn't fit, I felt very embarrassed. I thought you might think I was overreacting." He turned slightly toward her, his expression serious but soft. "I didn't think that at all." She looked down at her hands. "I've always been big. Stronger than other girls. Taller than many boys. People say things. Some laugh. Some stare. I thought, maybe today those old words would follow me again." Either place, Rafiq listened carefully, not interrupting. "Today, when the bangle got stuck," she continued, "it felt like everything people said about me was true. That I cannot fit into normal things. Not clothes. Not jewelry. Not expectations." Her voice trembled slightly. She tried to hide it, but Rafiq heard it clearly. He leaned forward just a little. "Alina, those bangles didn't fit because they were small. That's all. It has nothing to do with your worth." She took another deep breath, trying to calm the ripple of emotions inside her. No one had ever explained things to her that gently. After a moment, she asked in a soft voice, "Did you ever feel like you didn't fit somewhere?" "For," Rafiq smiled faintly, "more times than you think." She looked at him, surprised. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "People think I am too quiet. Too calm. Some say I speak slowly. Others think I don't show enough emotion. I've been told I am boring. Or hard to read." Alina blinked. She hadn't expected that. He continued. "I used to feel insecure too. I thought no one would accept someone like me. But then I realized that quiet doesn't mean weak. Calm doesn't mean cold. It just means I move at my own pace." She listened closely, absorbing every word. Rafiq looked directly at her now, his eyes warm. "And you move at your own pace too. That's not wrong." Alina felt something soften inside her chest. She had always tried to move according to others, to be smaller, lighter, quieter. But here he was, telling her she didn't need to force herself. "You know," he added with a gentle smile, "when I first saw you months ago at a relative's wedding, I noticed your confidence before your height." "Confidence?" she repeated, surprised. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "You were carrying trays, greeting people, helping everyone with a natural grace. You didn't seem worried about impressing anyone. You were just yourself." Alina felt her cheeks warm. She had never heard anyone describe her like that. He continued. "When my family asked about marriage, I told them I wanted someone kind, honest, and strong. They suggested meeting you. And I agreed." Alina swallowed slowly, her heart beating stronger. "Your height wasn't something I had to accept," he said softly. "It's simply a part of you. Like my quiet nature is part of me." Silence filled the space again. But now it was warm, comforting. After a moment, Alina gathered courage to speak again. "I've never said this to anyone, but sometimes I wished I was smaller. Not because I hate myself, but because life would be easier." Rafiq gently shook his head. "If you were smaller, you wouldn't be you. And I wouldn't have met the same person I admire right now." Her breath caught for a second. He admired her? That word felt heavy but beautiful. "You don't have to change," he said firmly but kindly. "Not for me. Not for anyone." Alina lowered her gaze. She felt tears forming, but not from sadness, from relief. From finally hearing words she had waited her whole life to hear, she wiped her eyes softly. "You're very kind. I'm just being honest," he replied. They sat quietly for a few moments, listening to the distant chatter of relatives and children. The golden lights above them shimmered softly, reflecting off the decorations. Then Rafik spoke again. "Can I tell you something else?" Alina nodded. "When you said, 'just let me go,' earlier, it worried me." She looked up. "I didn't mean I wanted to run away. I just wanted the moment to stop." "I know," he said calmly. "I understood. That's why I didn't leave you alone in that moment." "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled gently. "Whenever you feel stuck, tell me. Don't hold it inside. We'll figure things out together." His words settled in her heart like sunlight, soft, warm, full of hope. A group of children suddenly ran past them, laughing loudly, breaking the stillness. Both of them smiled. It lightened the mood. Rafik stood up and extended his hand. "Come. There are still a few rituals left. We should go." Alina looked at his hand for a second. She realized something important. He didn't force, didn't pull, didn't rush. He always offered, always waited, always gave her space. She placed her hand in his. As they walked toward the center of the hall, Alina felt a quiet confidence rise within her. She didn't have to pretend anymore. She didn't have to hide her height or her strength. She didn't have to shrink herself to fit into someone else's idea of a bride. She was enough. Standing beside Rafik, she felt something she hadn't felt before: belonging. Not because she changed herself, but because someone finally saw her for who she truly was. Later that night, when they sat in the car leaving the wedding venue, Alina looked at her wrist. The bangle that once felt impossible to wear was now shining softly under the dim light. She smiled to herself. It wasn't just the bangle that fit today. Her heart did too. The car ride to Rafik's home was quiet, peaceful, and filled with a new kind of warmth. The world outside moved softly, as if the night itself understood that two lives were entering a new journey. Alina sat by the window, watching the dim streetlights pass one by one. She felt tired, but it was the kind of tiredness that came after a day full of emotions. Her heart was still adjusting to everything: her fear, her relief, her happiness, and most of all, the surprising comfort she felt around Rafik. He sat beside her, calm as always. He didn't speak much, but he didn't need to. His silence felt gentle, not empty. Every once in a while, he glanced at her to make sure she was okay. Whenever their eyes met, he gave a little smile that made her heart steady again. At one point, he asked, "Are you warm enough? The AC isn't too cold?" "No, I'm fine," she replied softly. "Good," he said, turning the air slightly lower anyway. "If anything feels uncomfortable, tell me." She nodded. A simple gesture, but meaningful. When the car finally stopped in front of his home, Alina looked out at the beautifully lit house. Soft lights decorated the gate, fresh flowers hung above the entrance, and the front yard was crowded with smiling faces: his family, waiting eagerly to welcome the new bride. A wave of nervousness washed over her again. She took a slow breath. Rafik noticed instantly. "Don't worry," he whispered. "My family is excited to meet you. They already like you." She nodded again, trying to calm her racing heart. As soon as she stepped out, his mother rushed forward, her face glowing with joy. "Welcome, my daughter," she said warmly, placing her palms gently on Alina's cheeks. Alina felt her chest loosen. There was no judgment in the woman's eyes, only love. His sisters followed, hugging her, guiding her inside, adjusting her dupatta when it slipped slightly. Their touches were caring, not critical. Rafik walked behind her quietly, making sure she didn't feel lost in the crowd. Whenever she glanced back, he gave a reassuring nod. Inside the house, the rituals continued simple, traditional, filled with laughter and blessings. No one stared at her height. No one whispered behind her back. They treated her like she belonged. After an hour, when the rituals finally ended, Rafik's mother said kindly, "You must be tired. Let her rest for some time." Alina was taken to the room, prepared for her, their room now. She stepped inside slowly, observing everything. The room was neat, warm, and thoughtfully decorated. Fresh flowers sat on the table. The curtains were soft and light, and the bed was arranged with gentle colors. She stood silently in the center of the room, breathing in the calmness. A moment later, Rafik entered quietly, closing the door softly behind him. He didn't walk too close. He gave her space, letting her settle. "Is the room okay?" he asked. She nodded. "It's nice. Very comfortable. I'm glad." He placed a small box on the table. "My mother wanted you to have this. It's just a small welcome gift." Alina opened the box slowly. Inside was a delicate bracelet larger than the bridal bangles, simple, yet beautiful. It shimmered under the light. "It's lovely," she whispered. "She said she chose a bigger size so you don't struggle," Rafik said with a gentle smile. Alina felt her throat warm. She wasn't used to people adjusting things for her. Most of her life, she had been the one adjusting herself for others. Now, for the first time, someone else was making room for her. "Your mother is very kind," she said softly. "It runs in the family," he joked lightly. She looked up at him, and they both shared a small smile. He then took a step forward, but slowly, almost asking for permission with his eyes. When she didn't move back, he spoke softly. "You've had a long day. If you want to rest, I'll sit outside for a while." "You don't have to," she said quickly. He raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" She nodded, though her heart was beating faster. She didn't want him to feel unwelcome in his own room. And more than that, she felt safe with him, something she hadn't expected to feel so soon. Rafik sat on the chair near the window, giving her space to relax. He didn't make the room feel awkward. He didn't rush her. He simply opened the window slightly to let fresh air in. Alina sat on the edge of the bed, removing her jewelry carefully. The bridal bangles, the necklace, the heavy earrings one by one. The weight lifted from her body. But strangely, the weight inside her heart felt lighter too. After a few minutes, she noticed Rafik watching her hands. "Does it still hurt?" he asked, pointing toward the wrist where the bangle had been tight earlier. She shook her head. "It's fine now. The swelling is gone. Maybe it was just stress." Rafik nodded thoughtfully. He then said, "Alina, can I ask you something?" She looked up. "Yes. Why did you hide your tears earlier?" His voice was cautious, gentle. She smiled sadly. "Because I didn't want anyone to think I was weak." He leaned forward slightly. "Crying doesn't make you weak. It means you feel deeply. That's a strength. I may be a..." She looked at him for a long moment, absorbing his words. No one had ever told her that before. Rafik continued, "You don't have to pretend around me. Not today. Not ever." Alina lowered her gaze. "I'm still learning how to be comfortable. With myself. Tram. And I'll wait," he said softly. "There is no rush." His patience felt like a warm blanket wrapped around her heart. A gentle silence followed. Not awkward, just peaceful. After a moment, Alina spoke again. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." She took a soft breath. "When I said, 'Just let me go' earlier, I was scared I would ruin everything. I didn't want to disappoint you." Rafik shook his head immediately. "You didn't disappoint me. You surprised me with your honesty." She blinked. "Honesty?" "Yes," he said. "Most people hide their fears. You didn't. That takes courage." Alina's chest felt warm. Every word he said chipped away at the old insecurities she had carried for years. After a moment, Rafik stood up and walked toward her slowly. He didn't move too close, only enough so she could see him clearly. "Alina," he said gently, "you don't have to fit into anyone's idea of perfect. Not mine, not society's. You just have to be yourself." Her eyes softened. "And if being myself is too much?" He smiled. "Then I'll adjust. I don't mind." Her breath caught for a moment. She had never heard anything so simple yet so powerful. A soft breeze entered through the window, making the curtains dance lightly. Alina looked at the bracelet again, and then at Rafik. A quiet understanding filled the room, like two people beginning to learn the language of each other's hearts. Rafik stepped back a little, giving her space again. "If you want to change into comfortable clothes, I'll wait outside." No, she said quickly, surprising even herself. "You can stay." "I don't mind." He paused, then nodded. "All right." She stood up and walked toward the dresser, removing the last of her heavy accessories. When she sat down again, she felt lighter, calmer, more natural. Rafik sat back in the chair, watching her with gentle eyes. "You look more relaxed now." "I am," she said honestly. "Today was emotional, but good." "I'm glad," he said softly. As the night grew quieter, they talked slowly, comfortably about simple things. Their childhoods, their hobbies, their small fears, their small joys. No big promises, no dramatic moments. Just two people learning each other. When the clock struck late, Rafik finally stood up. "You need sleep. Tomorrow will be another long day." Alina nodded. "You too." He gave her a soft smile. "Good night, Alina." She looked at him for a moment and replied gently, "Good night, Rafik." He turned off the lights except for a small bedside lamp, and the room filled with a warm orange glow. As he lay down on his side of the bed, keeping respectful distance, Alina settled under the blanket. Her eyes wandered to the bracelet on the table, bigger, comfortable, made for her size. She realized something beautiful. This new life wasn't asking her to shrink, it was expanding to fit her. For the first time in many years, Alina closed her eyes with peace in her heart. Not fear, not doubt. Just a gentle, steady warmth. And in the quiet darkness, she whispered to herself, "I fit."